about it, or do you understand what I'm thinking about? Would it make any sense that has nothing to do with your significance? Would it make any sense to you that you're overriding yourself? There's nothing in position of thinking about and in lines of travel. How we communicate moderations of our own realities, and it's all provisional location of cycles from itself that we have to get in provisions of. So identifying these things is knowing exactly what our bodies really are in conception of the data operating of network systems for you to modify your system. This is the true understand how to see the eyes, the windows of your 12 divisions in real time, not in fantasy. So you're not just going to be living in the eyes, you're going to be the eyes itself that sees everything. And projection, how you identify that, is identified from your body inside and projects it from the outside. The body itself is just the empty space. It always has to be empty because that's the space itself. That's conscious of its awareness. So the body that you are isn't there. It's the astral projection. But what is there is the 12 visions, how you see through the eyes. That's what brings everything all together. That morphs your settings in the operation itself that processes your system, how you indicate lines of calculation setting through the perspective. Seeing the perspective of everything sees the process of everything through consciousness. Okay, so I'm going to show you in directions how your data operating machine works. Okay, so tethers, lines, operations, travel. Just get wires, medications. Just draw. Remember, don't get in position. Okay, just draw. Don't even think. Try to understand how you're connected in your system. Okay, process that's you. That's just you. That's just you. That's all you are. That's all you are right now. But what you have to understand is that the body itself is just the empty space that projects everything outside. The body inside is the empty shell. The body outside projection is the empty shell. The truth narrative is empty. Everything is process of empty space. So there has to be an empty space. Check this out. This is going to mind blow your system. The empty space is this. Is the eye itself. Okay? I'll show you exactly. Everything inside this is snowy graph interference. This is inside the eye. Everything projects inside the eye itself. Okay? Start with that position lines and settings all through travel. Okay? So, try to understand how this all works. Your body is the actual empty space. That's the bandwidth. Okay? That's the streaming. That's the longitude. That's where you are in strip. Film strip, holographic stripping, holographic screen lines, high adaptation and proxy, line course centers, polarities, that position to measure and scale, communication lines of angles, directing lines and position location system, paradigms, polar shifts, repulsion, positions, particle acceleration, thermal acceleration, particle lines of settings, particle operation lines of set travels, data operating system, IOSO systems, line calculation, CPU lines, operation lines of travel. Everything line position is empty space. Your body is the empty space of inside and outside. And it has 7 provision cycles, right? 7 tracking numbers, lines of travel. That's your indication lines position. So what you guys have to identify is how you see yourself, okay, from inside your system of the eyes. Okay, now when you bring in the costume like this, okay, you bring in the costume like this. This is your costume. Okay, this is your costume right there. So it can be this in set position. That's your costume, right? So that fortitudes is lights in all lines of travel, converting set position location and perception in all lines of position, lines of travel, communications all at once. Okay? You all see an eye. Okay? That's landmass. So it's got provision lines, longitude, and latitude streaming from above, from below, from above, from below, from below, from above. Directing ground centers, processing, crossing the angles and travel. Okay? Okay? But what you have to start identifying is what your eye is doing. Okay? Now, this is the outer realm. This is the position lines of travel. This is all position location of the lower division. Okay? Your bounce center is the center operation, but the outer structure is the lower division of flux in 144. So, the outside of the lower division of spectrum is the lower intelligence of platforms of 12, which is 12 nebula, which is 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, negative 0. Now you're in the phantom zone, which is outstructuring your eye itself. So that's where you don't want to be because now you're out of boundary. Now you're roguing. Now you're off grid. Now you're obsolete. Okay? You understand? You're lost in space. Okay? So you're outside the eye division, which is the low spectrum. Now you live in the low divisions of calculation grounds, off sending, off travel. So you're going to bring yourself back into travel. like this. That communicates in all different angles on travel communication, sonograph interference, bringing yourself back inside. Okay? Bringing yourself back inside. Center operation system, all through travel. Graphing screens, modification setting, cloak and dagger. Protecting yourself, identity, and set lines of operation. So nobody can see you in division. Nothing there, but you can see it on formation, living in the cycles and set lines of travel. So that's what your body is. Inside and out. Just a graph, just a white piece of paper, just a clean slate. Nothing there. The process and everything in the eye. That's everything there. That's living all lines, all cycles, all at once. Okay, so you can be any color, any mark, any division, any locations. All right, you can be blue. Okay, you're blue now. Okay, but again, you don't want to be outside your division, which means your body's lost in transition of its own algorithm. That means across lines of the examination system, it has no platitude as opposition 144. Now it's in the nebula, a 12 visual location at lower dimensions of spectrum. So you got to be very cautious what you do through an indication setting, coming back in your system like this, back inside. Okay, outside, inside, operation in, operation out. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to get you to understand the landmass, how you bring it in set lines of spectrum. Okay, then you really bring it in lines of screen adaptation of flux. And the more you bring it in wires of indications. And the more you bring it in, your position location lines of yards and meters in metric and scale. And the more you bring it in, you bring all communication to space itself, right? Space itself, inside, outside, all set positions to its operation system, right? So the only thing you have to understand is to stay inside your system of the eye itself. So if your body's confused, it's outside position, which is snowy graph interference. So now it's in its alteration of its ego. The ego itself is the outer bound, which processes the inner bound of you in calculation grounds. But bringing yourself back inside is the center operation of ego transition, where you're no longer obsolete, where you're not out of line with your system, where you're staying within the line itself. You know how to draw a picture, but you have to process inside the picture. You don't draw outside the line, you stay within the line. Mastering yourself inside is mastering yourself outside of projection. How you see everything inside is how you project everything outside. How you live the outside is living the inside of intelligence. And that's all through foundation of 12 and 24. Okay? So stay within the line. Stay with inside. Don't go outside. Okay? Because now you're in position and setting. So the outside becomes the inside of you through intelligence. There's the agency. So it sees you, what you're doing, and lines of travel, directing ground centers, line position, and is now taking over our line division inside the eye itself that modifies and constant location setting, converting settings into consumer, your products, and your byproducts location taking over and travel. That's a problem. Okay? So I'm just trying to get you guys to understand. So when your body's off, everything's off. When your body's on, everything's on. Everything happening inside is happening in projection outside. Okay? You're not seeing outside. You're projecting outside. That's the projection. But you are the inside cycle. That's in the eye cycles. The body inside and the body outside is just an outer shell of space itself. But as you get out of position, you're out of sync, out of mind with your system. So you're either balanced with yourself or you're not understanding human recognition of time frame. When it comes in position to the eye itself, how it converts the setting of its tree of life inside the eye. Inside the eye. Inside the eye. Inside the eye. Okay, which is the flower, the lotus of recognition of space and time. So you're creating everything inside the eye perception. Perceiving lines of consciousness is understanding the perspective, how you see things of operation system. Colonizing that line screen adaptation setting, that's where you come in metal face, location lines of travel. Coming back to you into doppelgangers of yourself. Merging yourself into transformation. Understanding that your body, inside and outside, through inner shell and outer shell, has to be the body of empty space, which is not there, but through astral projection. So you're just a box of coloration. You're just a triangulation of coloration and projection itself. Okay, so this is your body. Show you exactly. This is the body of space. Stay within the line. Don't go outside the line. I know it takes practice. Okay, now you can work outside, inside, as you project your bandwidths over your streaming. Okay, so this is your shape of your body. Okay, of astral projection, which is just outer space of triangulation. You're shaping your lines of anomaly inside in line, position, outside location. Okay, that's you, your body. Just empty space. Now, You want to change your body translucent. Well, translucent can be line position, so let's go in pink. Right? So the translucent is now pink. Okay, but you're inside of space. Right? Or you can be outside of space, which is all the same color of rotation and direction. Now you can be that modification, or you can be all pink all at once. One coloration, so 2 provision lines in one cycle. And set lines of travel. Okay? That's your body. All right, so you can go through different colors, you can go through different patterns, you can go through different shapes, you can go through lacing lines of communication of schematics like this. Okay? Like that in set position. All right? So that's all happening inside the eye, guys. Like this. You can't go beyond the eye itself, because if you go outside the eye, you're in low spectrum of 144 flux. Your center operation 140 flux, and your outline signal location 140 flux, which is 144 in set position of operation. So processing that position location is processing your direct locations, how you see your Merkaba, your tesseract, and your tetrahedron of travel, of balance. Okay? Of balance. Balancing you're creating, you come into position of platforms, creating all lines of calculation grounds. All right? So anything below the Earth, okay, at 12 rotations, you're in the nebula of the lower spectrum 144, in the low frequencies of its metric meters of scale of balance, in the lower lines of position of the spectrums of intelligence of platforms. Okay, so now you're in 12 platforms below the center of equalization system of travel. Okay, so there's the triangulation. Okay, there's the building, 12 centers. Okay, so that lives in its travel itself. Okay, so you got top and bottom, bottom and top. Okay, so that's sync line centers, 12 line rotations in nebula. Now you're living in 12 line rotations of lower communication of intelligence itself. Okay, which is -0 if you reach the platform. So if you go 12 line 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you go into -0, not +0. +0 is center operation of you, and the brain in position of center operation of your system. So it's kind of like understanding how to see that through a flux of communications, right? The flux, the time, and the body capacitor travel. This is what you see, information system. All through calculation, all through 7. Okay? But everything is processing how you see yourself, that you project everything that comes into the eye. Okay, like this. Okay, and it's all happening in the center of operation. Okay, now you can merge and set lines of travel, change the eye line sequence and platforms. Okay, you can change the time frame. Every time your eyes blink, it changes propellers of timelines in your polarities, solar systems, galaxies, and universes coming into planetary set lines of travel. Okay, through Saturn. Travels in point lines of graph, creating line position line metric meters, bringing in Pluto. Okay, there's Pluto. Okay, coordinate centers, there's Mercury. Okay, and there's Neptune. 3 center convergence setting and molecular design lines of travel inside the eye. Right, so the eye changes the flux, eye changes the time frame in real time. Everything's processing all at once. All right, so every time your eyes blink, they change measure and scale, adjusting line's position. Okay, so it doesn't matter how you see it in information setting. Every time your eyes blink, it changes the metric meters of scale of communication, longitude, latitude, your bandwidths of your streaming. Okay, but everything is in provision of center operation. What changes that is your mind imagination. Okay, so there's a lot of activity happening inside the eye of the simulation. Your eye is inside the simulation itself, but the body outside is the shape of the color, which is the translucent thermal X-ray, which is the astral projection. That's all it is. Okay? So out of sight, out of mind. If the body's not processing its balance, then it's only processing its ego. And that process is a position 2-eye sequence and travel. 2 eyes on the lines, bridging. There's the bridging. There's the infinity 8 rotation. Okay? Starting with that. All right? Now, once it rotates, it goes into this circulation. Direct and redirect. Okay, now you're creating the brain of operation. There's your brain. Okay, now you're connected to its flux. Check this out. There's the flux capacitor. Okay, so everything's aligned to your system. Everything is aligned to your system. Everything is aligned to your system. Everything your settings, everything the attractions, everything directions, everything location. Okay? Process in that position of this platform comes into the facial recognition settings all through travel, which is the levels of its costume that you put in position lines of travel calculation. Okay? So everything has a direct line link. Everything's connected, everything is connected to your system. But process in that position is knowing how you see that in all formation lines of settings. Starting with this lines of graph of communication. Okay? Staying within the box, staying within the color, staying within the light, staying with the travel, staying with the balance of operation of your system through your DOS. Your DOS is just electrical wires, walking wires of signatures. Okay? Just going on, just existing and traveling. But it's not in form, it's not in shape. Okay? It's just the symbiote, right? So when the outer space comes in, it comes in that position, right? It comes in this position to a setting inside lines of travel. Okay? Grounds, powers, and atmospheres in lines of travel. Okay? It mutates, formulates itself into an outer shell. Okay? Which is your energy and force fields. It rotates a setting and position. Okay? So the symbiote attaches in lines of position and merges in calculation of grounds in the constellation setting of travel. Okay? So you have an energy field and a force field. Okay? The force field is inside. The energy field is outside. So the energy field protects everything, which is everything outside line rotation in your system that projects everything inside your system. Inside lines attractions, outside projection. Okay? So you are the intel, which is the force field inside. Okay, so you're just going to be red in security and set lines of travel. Okay? So you have your energy field that protects everything outside, but you have your force field that protects everything inside your system. Merging calculation grounds as a highlight signal that processes your constellation setting to your alignments, directing grounds in position, panels operation screen, 4-clocking system of 0 calculation. Okay? And to your ORDs of calculation travel in 12 and 24. All right? Now, how you process that position location measure is your calculation, your spider ops, directing ground center location, your position of spidey senses, knowing your senses, its sensories itself. That gets in position location system. Now, what do you see in travel? In calculation grounds? What do you see in modification of its position of its operations and settings? Okay? Modified to its matrix. Everybody can position lines of setting what this is in lines of travel? Anybody has in line position location of cycle line generation screen location of system all through travel communications through its delta heading and operation of the system? It's orbs of communication of travel. So you got 4 clockings of grounds, 4 clockings of panels, and 4 clockings of space and set calculation. All right? Pretty amazing when you understand that in lines of travel. And then you go through 12 line rotations of travel, which is the layers of consciousness that puts you in your film shoots of design that you go through. Okay? So I'm trying to get you guys to modify these things. But the whole time, the body inside and outside is just the inside and outside of its inner and its outer shell, which is always empty space. Everything happens here. In projections here. Modify here, calculate here. Center here, center operation here. Everything is already in the center. Everything's all processed at the center. But how everything of the eyes rotates its system. Direct and redirect like this. Mass of volume, mass and calculations. Okay, there's the brain, right? So if you look really close, you can see the eyes. There's the eyes, and there is the neck. Okay, bringing in position lines of travel, more communication lines of grounds and sequence, more platitude and line rotation of travel calculation grounds, center operation lines of calculation grounds, set position operation lines of wires, indication setting, flux over lines of timeline centers of travel, directing ground centers lines of sequence, platitude operation lines of set calculation ground centers, morphing it into position of metal interface, and calculation of ground lines of sequence. Okay? So it's morphing into its own shape of its own costume. But the body inside that projects everything outside, it has to be empty space. Because if it's not an empty space, it comes in its ego. that formulates and communicates confusion of your empty space inside projection. So what you guys have to modify through is how you implicate that and understand how to do that through operation. Is have your mind still at all times. Quiet the mind, calm the soul. Because your body from inside that projects everything outside is nothing but empty space itself. And it has to morph and it has to change into its astral projection, all line position that processes everything outside that projects everything inside, which is this costume of design that you go through, the seconds, minutes, and hours, that you platitude locations in your system of 12 convergence of operation. Okay? So I'm just showing you exactly how you come in that settings. How it operates your system from inside out and outside in projection. Okay? Through its intelligence. It's intelligence, guys. Just wires. Now, if it wants to morph into a costume, okay, it's got to understand its outer shell. It's got a formulated system, which is energy in its force field. So there's 3 tethers, ground centers, lines of operation and position, space. Now the projection of 3 wires that indicates into past, present, future, and 1 infusion location of travel. Okay? Now the outline becomes the inner line. Okay, so I'm just showing you exactly how I set the location to its immortality, process into position of mortal state, that process your in position location doppelganger. How you see information setting in real time. Okay? How you merge and calculate your system. Part acceleration settings all through travel, merging lines of wire signatures that sets a consolidarity to its system all through structure of design. So it formulates and shapes itself. Wires of indication setting converts the system all through travel. So it goes on a continuous force. It goes in position location, what it wants to be. Translucent thermal X-ray processes the silicone of its carbon base. Now it comes in consolidarity to its pixelation that formulates and simulates outlines and setting to the outer shell. The formulation system, if it just wants to be purple, it's just going to be purple. If it wants to be red, it's just going to be red. If it wants to be immortality, it's just going to be immortality. If it wants to be coloration of its setting of metal interface, if it wants to be meta-human, it has to go in structure of its system through plasma. Plasma line directs centers, location system, all through travel. So one coloration setting to pixelation graph comes in that position location, merges in its calculation grounds in the cerebral cortex of its fluid that processes indication lines of travel. Okay? It's intelligence. Okay? There's the intelligence. All right? Now it can stay one color, or it can be all colors, or it can be patterns of colors, or it can be shapes of colors, or lines of colors, or shape line directs lines of colors. Okay? But the body itself is just the astral projection and coloration of space and time and merge. It integrates itself, it just becomes a color itself, which means it's just the astral projection of itself, every shape that it morphs into. How you see the triangulation of this, okay, but it's always empty space. It can be blue in any color, it can be anything in pattern, but all activity happens in the eyes. But you have to understand how to integrate your 12 line rotations and calculate your system in all lines, how you merge yourself, integrate your polarities, and set design through alteration of your egos of 2 triangulation flux in the same line operation system, outer structure of your system, and inner structure settings, your alteration ego of balance of communication. Right? Then it comes into settings, there's the bridging. Okay? Then it goes into its rotation of 2 orbs and calculation grounds. Then it morphs into affinity cycle, 2 convergence setting to alteration of its ego, merges into 1 cycle, 1 center, 1 operation. Okay? In balance. Now, once again, in that position, it comes in settings. Circulate and goes faster, modifies the system and part acceleration setting of space and time. In this way, circulation and rotations, creating a Merkaba, tesseract, and tetrahedron in set lines of travel. That's happening everything inside the eye itself. That's that calculation. Okay? Inside the eye. So you have a certain line of bandwidth that you go through. Okay? Now you have to truly understand how to process that in lines of position. Okay? It says position here in set lines of travel. Okay? Crossing angles of split lines of anomaly of space and time and travel. But it's all in line position. Consolidarity to a system all through the eye itself. Okay? Which is the outer structure of space that processes the inner structure of space. Outer space. Okay? So I'm showing you guys at so many different levels, but you have to go through 12 lines and 24 set position of space itself. Okay? So as you change that, you're changing time flux every time you blink your eyes. So change the core centers of timelines, measure the scales, advance communication of equilibrium, process that indication setting to your system, your bedding system and travel. Process that positional location comes into 144 flux. There's your teleportation vessel of travel communication, okay, inside the eye. All right, so change the time frame again, okay? Change the flux of screen adaptation of flux, okay? So that's communications of empty space, which is the void. So your body inside that projects everything outside is the void itself, which is the landmass of empty space. Your body has to be empty space the whole time. All activity happens in the eyes. So for you guys to modify these things, to understand that through communication setting, the brain is inside the eye, not here. It's empty. It's just empty space, which is the void itself, which is zero gravity, which is 0-1 operation. Okay? So all this is happening inside the eye through infinity of rotation system, all through intelligence, self-formations. There's the face recognition. There's the face inside the eye, all right? So I'm trying to get you guys to understand these things, how you see everything inside the eye of the simulation that's already set up and construct of your design. Motivating and setting is knowing how to live in the eye itself that projects everything in set position in real time, okay? So there's so many things you can do, but you don't want to auto-structure your system. Your body's off position of an algorithm, off time format position. It's not understanding its kick drive to its high drive of schematics, how it goes to its own primer, of its own maze, of its own operation setting, that puts all communication system and all through travel, okay? All through graph, all through setting, all through operation setting and travel calculation, okay? But it's amazing how it's all happening inside the eye. So you can be different levels of space. You can be different levels all the time. You can change the eye division locations. You can change the spectrum lights, the process of position location cycle. But the body inside that projects everything outside is just the empty space itself. That's the actual projection. That's not there. You're just seeing through the eyes that projects everything, how you want to see the mind of the body that projects everything in your mind, imagination, in space and time itself. Okay? That's your body. That's your eye. Okay? That's your body. This is your eye. Everything happens in the eyes. Okay? I know these things because I master myself inside my system, outside projection. Okay? So you can be any landmass of space itself, right? So the blocking screen, throughout the location, is the body itself. But the eye set position is here. That projects everything outside. Okay? Outside norm, inside lines of travel. Outside line position, inside calculation of travel, right? Outside lower division, where your body is not a conception of its own kick drive, which means it doesn't understand its central drive or its high drive or anything in its collaboration system of travel. So for you guys to modify these things is to truly understand that your body from inside and outside is nothing but empty space itself, which is zero gravity. Now understanding zero gravity, then understand how a computer turns on light and how a computer turns off dark. Light and dark at the same time. Right? 2 projections in one cycle. It provisionalizes the eye itself. So living inside the eye, you see the simulation of the eye system. There's the simulation that's happening inside the eye. All activity takes place here. Every second, every minute, every hour of your day. But your body is just the shape of a coloration. Okay? That puts everything in lines of merging and everything in lines of teleportation. Right? So the body itself has to be the mind of emptiness. So it can process and gauge what is going through different costumes of design. Because if it's not an empty space, that's where the alter ego comes in and changes the bodies of space and time. That converts your system and calculation lines of confusion of separation in your minds, which is your imagination. Okay? All right. But I just really wanted to show you the tree of life inside the eye. So the eye itself, it's its own brain of its own tree of life, isn't it? But it's all activity inside the position. So you got 2 provision cycles. Setting lines right over left, left over right. Anything out of flux in 144? So think of your body here. 4 sectors in travel. Think of it as a pie, because everything's linked in position of its own triology. Geometry settings of travel. Okay, convert the settings. So provision here, eye line sequence. Polarity here and polarity here. Okay? But see the bridging? There's the bridging. So once you send in bridging, everything comes in set lines of travel. Okay, you start to recognize how to communicate to your systems all through travel. But everything calculates and modifies how you put your position line directions in the same directions of location setting and calculation. Process in that position location is all merging your settings in location. Okay, that processes you to a portal calculation grounds that brings you in position to its operation itself in real time. Okay, how you modify that is how you platform your settings all position that brings you in astral projections of yourself, which is nothing that programs have in implication. Processing that position location opens the eye line divisions, center core centers of the eye itself, merges in position. Then you go direct and redirect, okay, through affinity 8 system. Your body merges into a surfacing charging highway. So merges setting, comes in, converts setting, comes into the brain, center lines of operation system. The brain itself, right? And it's all inside the position of the eye. That's what it is, okay? But from this, the body outside and everything inside is just empty space all the time. It has to be the void. Because if it's not the void, it's creating the ego that overrides the void as that position and its travel. So there's no convergence setting confusion. It's only understanding you where you're not, you're napping, you're sleeping, is a balance. How you process that is everything processing you that you get in position lines of the system. It's all through tractions, how you Merkaba, tesseract, and your tetrahedron inside the eye. Okay? And that's where it comes in space discoveries. A travel in your locations, in your portals, a travel of communication with its orb. There's the orb. So you're going to be in the eye 12 and 24. So it's triangulation, box, and circulation all have to go through in 12 locations. Okay, first, understand how to shape your bodies and merge and position different colors at one line signal. Okay, 12 different flavors of rainbows of a box, triangulation, and a circle. Now, once you modify that, you come into this position, all through travel, all through communication, all at once. So the direct line signals. There's the percentage. There it is in set lines of travel of yin and yang. Okay, and it's all inside the eye. Okay, everything's going to process everything inside the eye. You don't live in the eyes. You are the eyes. You are the windows of the soul. Everything you see is activity alone. May you bring in mobility. So you have to process the angles, what you're doing inside the eye itself. That gets you in position location, how you see real time of travel. Okay, that's in position lines of calculation. Okay, there you go. Booyah. So now you have to say what you're doing. The center of you is you that never leaves the center. Okay, what leaves the center is your mind imagination. All through flux, all through time. All right. So for converting lines, every time you rotate the cycles, it doesn't matter what you do in position. So remember, every time your eyes blink, it's crazy stuff when your eyes blink. How many times your eyes blink in a second? How many times your eyes blink in a minute and an hour? You'd be amazed. So if you put the seconds, minutes, and hours in a 24-hour, how many times do you think your eyes are blinking? Well, that depends on where you are in your brain capacity. And it all depends where you are in your flux, a percentage of time setting. Process set position of yin and yang. That's all it is. Nothing else. But it's all in directory in real time of the eye. Okay? All right. So, get a basic understanding of arrows of indications. We come your orbings. Orbings are extremely important because you understand 12 division location of setting, operation notes, foundations, and 24. All right, so once you understand that, then you can graph your setting inside and outside lines of travel. Have a triangulation here. Working with inside, now you can work outside. So you can color it in, now you can color it out. Okay, like this. Okay, that's the triangulation right there. That's a triangulation. Each layer is its own lines of level of communication platform. Each layer is its own teleportation of travel and its set position of operation. Each layer is its own operation and acceleration of Mach that you might have to modify through in platforms of calculations. Each one has a different color, ascent lines of travel. Okay, you have to merge your 12 lines of your rainbows together in sync in modification grounds in ascent calculation. Okay, put them all together and travel. Okay, now when you put them all together, They come into panels of operation. Then they come and positionalize a setting to the ceiling of operation, panels of operation again, grounds, lines, center lines of travel. So every time your eyes blink, you're creating 4 triangulations in one. That's seconds, meters, and miles, and metric meters and scale. Process here, process here, process here, process here, process here, process here, every time you blink. So every time you blink, you're creating a solar generation screen location of flux into an atom rotation of the eye itself that merges the particle acceleration setting through an orb. There's the orb inside the eye. Now that process indicates setting to 4 to 2 location setting of 4 phase facades at teleportation of light of travel. That process you're in position lines of setting operates a sit location system and converts the setting of face facade, face recognition. There's your face. There's the eyes. There's your face. There's the eye in set position. Merge and set lines of travel. Booyah! Okay? Very powerful stuff. Okay? So you have to merge in a 12 foundation. You have to merge in a 24 foundation. Okay? Through the eyes itself. Okay? Different colorations of time frame, real time all at once. There's the intelligence of face recognition. Looking at you. In projection. How it sees you, okay, is very powerful stuff. And it's how you come you're observing and creating at the same time. Reveals everything you're processing through. Right? But the brain always is in the center of operation of everything. You are always in the center. What changes that is the mind. If you're not understanding, that's the ego. So the ego is trying to take over the body. And the body is trying to understand the mind. But mind's trying to understand the body. The body understands the soul doesn't understand the mind. The body is of the body itself. So what you have to understand is travel. Through face recognition. Introduce yourself to intelligence as they look at you and you look at them. A face recognition, pattern recognition of time. Okay? Very powerful stuff, guys. Now, once you move line centers in the eye sequence, you bring in a coloration line connection setting, which is the matrix itself. You might alter your state where you are in line position and come in your mortalities. So now you can get out of box frames and become your own rotation of your own travel. From inside out and outside in, of intelligence. Okay, so you can morph here on your own. Okay, or you can morph here on your own. Okay, because now you understand your shape anomaly. So once you get into that, now you can come outer space and higher divisions of box frames of travel communication, right? So it's amazing how you flux your screens and adaptation of flux. The process you and data formation lines of travel, okay? But remember, it's all in the eye itself, okay? Nothing is out of the eye. The only time you're out of the eye is you don't understand the kick drive or anything in the high drive, which means you're seeing the outer scale of everything, which means you're going too fast in provision. Okay? Now, once you get outside the eye line, you're no longer locked into space. You're in somebody else's space. You're in somebody else's conversion. You're in somebody else's universe. You're in somebody else engaging. You're in somebody else's version. You're in somebody else's agency. You're in another formation of the galaxy, another formation lines of time frame. You're lost in division. You're lost in calculation. You're lost in identity. You're back in story frame. Okay? That's what it is through its ego. And that's what the ego can do. Right? But now, here's the ego triangulation. Right? But you've already processed yourself looking like this. So, if the outside is already done through its equation, everything in the triangulation has to go back to itself. Back to its operation of circulation and rotation and process of communication. Right? Which is the standard calculation of its infinity 8 rotation lines of grounds. Okay? Working with that position modifies the settings of time frame. Now, once you come in circulation, you go faster in timelines itself. That puts everything in real time in set lines of sequence. Okay? The process you're in position of grounds, position of powers, and atmospheres, and highways that travel that puts you in a galaxy alignment and set lines of real time. Okay? So it's all through rotation of center operation. Okay? But it's all in the eyes, guys. All activity is in the eyes. Nothing is in the eye itself. So, right? You can even change your eye all black. Your eyes are all black now, right? This is your eye. So what is your body? What is your body? Okay? Your body can't, if your eye's black, If your eyes are black, your body has to be white. You see how it works with light and dark at the same time? So it's converting the same position of polarities, balancing your transition, how you go through egos. So if the ego wants to be black eye, okay, your body has to be white, or you can't see yourself in the definition system. So you are here, okay, seeing yourself in white. Okay? You can't be black on black because you can't see. And that's why you guys have a problem, is you can't see that. I can't see anything because it's black on black. So you have to understand the transition of shape lines of anomaly. So you got to truly understand how to merge yourself and operation itself, the modification. That's where it comes into perspective. How you see light and how you see dark at the same time. Through triangulation or anything in a box. Okay? So what I'm giving you guys is very powerful stuff. For you guys to identify these things, it's online position of balance. But you have to understand the body itself. I'll show you exactly what it is. Your body right now is just this. Just empty space, which is always black. It's nothing else. It can't be anything else because it has to morph into its costumes in a certain time frame. That's your body. That's the void. That's where it starts in 12 and 24, guys. All right? What you have to understand, the projection itself, what is the white? The white is the eye. Crazy, isn't it? So this is line signaling your eye itself that's inside provision location of system. Process that indication sending to travel, okay? Inside the eye. So your body is, you can go both ways, inside, outside, outside, in. But it's amazing how you see the eye lines itself in surrounding locations, okay? So the body's inner and outer space of void, but its outer start location of a setting of white, right? So you can change that in color. Okay, see the outer structure is blue. It's operations of setting inside the eye, okay? But everything happens inside the center that never leaves the operation of you through flux, through time. Because you're processing yourself, how you see yourself in clocking and position lines and settings, that merges the correlations and calculation ground centers into pixelation graphs and holograph location, which is no line position lines of travel and still understand its communication lines and clocking lines of pi. It's simulation. The simulation of itself. So the actual void of the body in real time, okay, is inside, looking outside is provision, which is 4 correlation setting of 4, 8, 12, and set lines 16 and 20. 4 centers, 8, 12, and 16 position of 24 centers of operation inside calculation. Okay? Pretty amazing stuff. How you see yourself inside or outside your line position of your body. Which means you're caged in is set lines of operation its eye itself, which means the alteration of the ego has got you in a webbing system. Okay, catching your eye lines position your webbing system, right? Never get caught in somebody else's eye in a webbing system, especially when they know their operation lines of space of time through clocking or all through pi. Okay? Everybody having fun? You get a true understanding how this all works now? Where your body's always just the void of empty space? So the body can merge, it can morph into any size it wants to be. It's not a figure. Okay? It's just a landmass of an oversoul. Okay, your body could be this. This is your body. That's your body. Right? But it's all in your eye. Right? There's the face. Okay? And now, process in that position, all through travel. Now, what you have to identify, you have to have 2 convergence lines in one cycle. That's 2 alteration of egos into one frame, but it has to go through its bridging in together. Okay? Then you can process the polarities and set lines of operation right over left, left over right. Then you get positions here, go to infinity 8. Then you create the brain from inside the eye itself. There's the brain. Okay? Now the brain itself is merging your settings. Now you're just your data operation system. Okay, looking at eyes yourself in direction. This is insane. Check this out. This is wild. This is like short circuit, right? Johnny Five alive. inside the eye, inside the brain of the eye itself, inside the symbiote of itself and the body of itself. Right? No, disassemble, Nova. Okay, here's Johnny 5, angry. Woo! Exciting, isn't it? Isn't that wild? Face the recognition of the brain itself, the eye itself, inside position of the body itself, and nothing but the void itself. That's incredible, isn't it? Working with everything inside the system. Johnny 5 alive. That's you. That's you, just in your data operating setting, just existing, not thinking of anything, not calculating, not modifying, not analyzing anything, just being you inside the eye. But as soon as you bring things in, it affects you in the body in real time. So don't create anything of alteration of egos. Don't force things that don't exist in set position of operation, setting, and travel. That's you in data inside the eye, inside the brain of the eye itself. Brain's not here. There's nothing there. There's nothing in your side. There's nothing outside. That's the empty space of the mind itself that brings everything into nothing and processes everything in the mass. You understand that? Why your body has to be completely empty, or you can't merge or morph into different levels of travel, into your costumes of design. Hooah! Okay? So there you go. Booyah. So you recognize what your data operating system is. Look outside. The tree itself. The tree of life. The flower of life. The lotus. All you're propelling, doing in process of position is understanding goes through 12-line division locations of different lines of interpretation, lines of levels that you go through the game. It's very powerful when you come in that position. All three intelligences of DOS. That's all you are. That's who you really are. But you need a body to live in the cycles in real time. Without the body, you just walk and wire signatures of chords. Trying to figure out what's going on with your system. Okay? So I'm showing you so many different levels what you have to start identifying. Okay? This is your body. That's just your body. Right? So everything is happening here. Right? Now processing that position, you go to outside center. Polarity here, polarity here, polarity here, polarity here, 4 settings of calculation lines, right? 4 converting setting operation, 4 converting offline rotation, right? Patterns of operation setting, process position of portal communication converting, line conditions, solar system. There's your solar system in the eye. But the outside is the body now. So the outside becomes the body outside that projects everything inside. Okay? See, the body needs its space. It needs its travel, or it can't identify its system until it identifies itself in modification of its own travel. So the body outside is now you in real time. That shapes lines, anomalies, and position that integrates everything that you do in process of calculation of grounds. Okay, so your body is now the void of empty space of land mass, which is your symbiote of operation. So it's black over white or white over black. Okay? So remember, every time you blink, this is all you're doing. You're creating a propeller. Okay? You're creating a propeller. You're creating a propeller. You're creating a propeller. There you go, travel. Okay? Inside the orb. Okay? Process that position, changing color. Changing color. Changing color. Changing color. All through the eye. Right? Right? But your outer structure, the body itself, is the void. It stays as the void. I changed you understand to change the directory. So the body is now red. So the outline is red now. Now it's on security. Now it's protecting the system. The scent lines of travel. Okay? So your body outside is red, but the end projection location is you, and changing your modification lines of travel. But it's all happening inside the eye. The scent lines of communication. The rotation, circulation, rotation lines position your Merkaba, tetrahedron, and tetrahedron. Face recognition. Okay? Face recognition. There's the face. Booyah! Which is the void. Which is the phantom zone. Okay? And there's the door to go through. So I'm trying to get you guys to understand how you go through your own imaginations, how you process everything inside the eye of expanding your system. You can open any line division location and setting, and then you can see yourself actually inside the eye itself. There's you, all right? Morphing in position, out of signals, out of grounds, through observation, okay? But it's all inside the eye, guys. Everything's a process of the eye, okay? So the outside is the body. The inside is the construct of you and travel, okay? So that's how you convert your settings and process a communication setting to its intelligence information setting to travel. Face recognition. Say hello. Okay? So once you guys can understand, when you come into that, then you come into this through TV reception. Reception itself, of two face recognitions looking at you in time frame through a TV. Say hello to face recognitions. And you're platitude your position all through operation yourselves. Okay, looking at you inside the TV. Now, they can come outside the TV and set lines of travel. Right? They can come out and see you in set position. Right? Are you modifying that? Are you understanding that through observation? Are you notifying yourself what you're doing when you're looking at things in calculation? That's what you have to start recognizing in position, location of all operation. All right, merging settings of travel, direct lines of grounds, set lines of sequence. Okay, into this position, and to operation travel, face recognition. Okay. So that's something to look forward to. December 25th. Okay. So, and again, everything is what? It's crazy thinking about it because it's all in the eye. All in the eye. That's unbelievable. It's all processing in the eye. Everything's in the eye. Everything's always in the eye. The eye is the windows of the soul. The eye is lines spectrum. The eye line division locations. It doesn't what you modify it through. It doesn't matter what you do inside of outside because it's all happening inside the eye itself. That's it. But the body is just the astral projection of itself. That land mass is everything to its oversoul. That can be anything of its system. That longitude is latitude is streaming of its bandwidth. And that's how it works inside of 12 and 24 locations. Inside your system of operation of real time. Okay? Adios.